Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but nobody told me it could be served from beyond the grave. The rain hammered the cracked windows of the abandoned house as I stood in my grandmother's old living room, my hands trembling around a letter that would change everything. Behind me, the floorboards creaked like the house itself was trying to speak, as if my grandmother had hidden something here for 30 years. My husband was gone. My sister had taken everything. Yet as I read those yellowed pages by my phone's flashlight, I realized the greatest victories sometimes come to those who look like they have lost it all. The house was not rotting, it was waiting. 3 months earlier, I sat in a lawyer's office wearing my only good dress, the black one from Grandmother Rose's funeral a week before. My sister, Vanessa, arrived 20 minutes late, her designer heels clicking against marble like a countdown to my doom. She did not look at me, just scrolled through her phone with the serene confidence of someone used to winning. "Ladies," said Mr. Ezra Hartwell, my grandmother's ancient attorney, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses. "Thank you for coming." Rose Montgomery was very specific about her estate. He opened a thick folder. "Vanessa, as the elder granddaughter, you inherit the 3-bedroom apartment on Riverside Drive, along with all furnishings, jewelry, and the contents of her savings account, approximately $340,000. I tried to keep my face neutral. Of course Vanessa got the apartment, the place where I had baked cookies with Grandma and listened to family stories. Vanessa had rarely visited. She was always too busy being flawless. "And Zora," Mr. Hartwell said, finally my name, "you inherit the family house in Millbrook, Alabama, along with all its contents and the surrounding 2 acres of land." Vanessa snorted. "The old dump in the middle of nowhere. Grandma, that is quite a sense of humor." Heat rushed to my face. I had seen the Millbrook house once at 12, sagging roof, no running water, fields and abandoned farms. It felt worthless. "There is one more thing," the attorney added, handing me a sealed envelope. Rose requested that Zora receive this letter, to be opened only upon entering the Millbrook property. Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Instructions for demolition, I am sure." She stood. "Zora, if you need a number for a junk hauling company, I will recommend one." Then she left, triumphant and bored. I should have known something was wrong when I came home and found my husband, Langston, packing. Not a weekend bag, careful, permanent packing. "We need to talk," he said, wearing his difficult conversation face. "This marriage is not working." I sat on our bed, the one we had chosen together years ago, gripping the edge like it could hold me steady. "We just inherited a house." "We could." "You inherited a shack," he said gently. "Vanessa got stability, capital, a future. So this is about money. It is about ambition. About direction." He zipped his suitcase. "Vanessa offered me a senior partnership at her firm. She needs someone she can trust, someone who understands her vision." I stared. "She is my sister." "It is not romantic," he lied, eyes betraying him. "Business, Zora. This is the life I want." "Vanessa is picking me up," he added, as if that softened anything. I watched from the window as Vanessa's red coupe slid to the curb. Langston hurried toward it, eager for his new, gleaming life. Vanessa smiled up at him, the same smile she had given me in the attorney's office. She had won again. A week later, I had given notice at the bookstore, broken the lease, sold furniture, and bought a battered Ford truck with a radio that barely worked. It was mine. That counted for something. The drive to Millbrook threaded through suburbs, small towns, and fields that looked like time had stopped. 10 miles out, the global positioning system on my phone lost signal. I followed Mr. Hartwell's hand-drawn map. Turn left at the dead oak, past the abandoned gas station, stop before the stone bridge. Millbrook was 3 buildings and a stop sign, a shuttered post office, a general store with yellowed newspapers in the window, and a diner that might have last served coffee before I was born. The house sat 2 miles past town, hunched in an overgrown field. The roof sagged. Windows were boarded. The porch leaned like it had surrendered. It was mine anyway. I unlocked the red front door with a fairy tale key. The smell that rose to meet me was not decay, lavender and lemon oil. A light switch worked. White sheets shrouded furniture like ghosts in a museum. Under one, I found a burgundy velvet armchair with carved wooden legs. Books lined the walls, leather-bound, scholarly, patient. Above the mantel hung a portrait of a woman who looked like me, only from the 1940s, eyes steady and full of secrets. I broke the red wax seal on the envelope. "My dearest Zora," my grandmother had written, "I gave Vanessa what she could see. I gave you what she could not. This house has been our family's sanctuary for 4 generations. We attract people who would use our gifts. Here we learn to plan, to endure, to become. Go to the basement. Behind the wine rack, you will find a door. That is where your real inheritance begins." Thunder rolled as I found the basement door behind a kitchen curtain. Motion sensor lights warmed to life on the stairs, revealing a finished underground study. Persian rugs, polished floors, built-in shelves, file cabinets, photo albums. A massive desk waited, and behind it a full-wall wine rack on hidden hinges. It took time, but one bottle released the rack, and it swung inward to reveal a narrow office. Cabinets labeled with names and dates covered 3 walls. A humming computer sat beside a corkboard webbed with photographs, clippings, and threads. Not conspiracy, meticulous, real. I pulled a folder. Terrence Ashford, City Planning Commission. Photos of private meetings with construction executives, bank records, cash for zoning conversations. Another, Judge Renee Morgan, bribes influencing custody decisions. Another, surgeons pushing unnecessary procedures. 30 years of careful documentation, never deployed. A note on the desk in my grandmother's precise hand. "Zora, start with the most recent files. Everything you need is on the computer. The password is your birthday, month, day, year. Trust your instincts. Trust your anger. Sometimes the best revenge is simply the truth." I logged in. Folders labeled active cases, pending investigations, evidence archives, distribution networks, and one that stopped my breath, Vanessa and Associates. The file on my sister dwarfed the rest. It traced her career, revealing corporate espionage, sabotage, strategic affairs with married executives, and payoffs through shell entities. All cleverly hidden from the world, except from Grandmother Rose. Bank records wove into photographs and recorded calls. The section on Langston was the worst. According to timelines and recordings, Vanessa had targeted him for more than 2 years, accidentally running into him. Just business, drinks, steady grooming of his ambition and resentment. In one recorded call, Vanessa told a partner she was taking him because breaking Zora will remove a problem. I listened with my fists clenched until my nails broke skin. She had not just taken my husband. She had intended to erase me. But she had forgotten the most important thing. I was not broken. I was free. The next folder explained the network. Journalists, prosecutors, agents, cultivated over decades. My grandmother had built relationships, waiting for the right moment and the right person. She had drafted emails that would trigger a coordinated multi-week cascade. Business journalists first, then federal investigators, then local prosecutors, and finally social accounts that would destroy any remaining reputation. Before I launched anything, I wanted to hear Langston tell the truth aloud. The next day I parked across from Vanessa's building and called him. We met for coffee in a crowded downtown shop. I arrived early, tested a tiny digital recorder, and kept my face composed when he sat down. We discussed logistics, lease furniture, until he leaned in. "It was not planned with Vanessa," he said. "She valued my opinion, opened doors, showed me how to think bigger. She sees the world the way I do. Success requires sacrifice." "When did feelings start?" I asked. He hesitated. "It was recognition. With her I am pushed, not settled. She sees my potential, the kind that can build something serious. She has opened doors you could not open alone?" "Yes." When he affirmed the lines I needed, ambition, partnership, secrecy, a timeline that predated our separation, I switched off the recorder. "Make sure you know the difference between being useful and being loved," I said, and left him blinking. That Friday, I met Vanessa for lunch at Meridian, the kind of restaurant with hushed waiters and city views. She arrived early to be seen. "The house is not as bad as we thought," I told her after the small talk. "There is a trust that has been maintaining it. Grandmother's investments were substantial." Her fork paused. "How substantial?" I slid across a folder of carefully chosen documents. Investment accounts, property holdings, a consulting business. Conservatively close to $2 million. Her face moved through surprise, anger, calculation. "And you inherited all of it." "The house came with it." I do not think grandmother meant such an imbalance. "I want to split everything fairly. You keep the apartment, I keep the house. We divide the financial assets equally after a complete audit." Vanessa assessed me like a deal. "That is generous," she said, fully buying the bait. We will need lawyers, accountants, full transparency. Of course, I said, knowing none of it would ever happen. She brought up Langston. It is purely professional. And I assured her I understood the partnership. I praised trust in business, the need for a partner who would never use personal information against you. Something flickered in her eyes, then smoothed. That weekend, I disappeared on purpose. I opened new accounts in different banks, stocked the house with non-perishable food, batteries, a generator, fuel, a new laptop, a portable printer, and prepaid cell phones. I was not paranoid. I was prepared. By Tuesday night, I had reviewed every file and tailored every draft. At 3 a.m. on Wednesday, I sat at my grandmother's desk beneath her portrait and pressed send all. 43 emails flew to reporters, prosecutors, regulators, agents, and select competitors. I slept until nearly noon. By early afternoon, responses poured in. Jordan Hayes at the Chicago Herald-Ledger wrote at 6:47 in the morning. This is extraordinary. Can we verify for front page tomorrow? Special Agent Ayanna Bennett at the Federal Bureau of Investigation wrote at 7:23 in the morning. These financial documents require immediate investigation. Call my direct line. By 3:17 in the afternoon, Vanessa flooded my phone with calls and voicemails, then emailed. Zora, do not speak to anyone about the estate. Call me now. I deleted it. News broke that evening, nothing naming her yet, but the pressure began. Evidence suggests systematic corruption in city development projects. Federal authorities open inquiry into planning contracts. Thursday's front page brought the second wave. Multi-million-dollar tax evasion scheme uncovered in regional business network. The details were unmistakable to anyone in the industry. Federal agents appeared at offices, accountants panicked, and the Internal Revenue Service announced audits covering multiple years. Late that afternoon, Langston called. What is happening? He demanded. Federal agents came to Vanessa's office. Reporters are calling her clients. The Internal Revenue Service is crawling through everything. That sounds stressful, I said. He lowered his voice. Someone with access to her private files did this. Then perhaps she should reconsider whom she trusts, I said. Zora, please. She has not slept. She thinks someone is spying on her. If she has done nothing wrong, the truth will clear her, I said. If she has, consequences will follow. He went quiet. If you set this in motion, stop it. It no longer belongs to me, I said. It belongs to investigators, prosecutors, and the public record. Friday morning named her. Vanessa Montgomery under federal investigation for complex fraud. Rising star or criminal architect? The articles laid out financial fraud, corporate espionage, the destruction of competitors, and the 2-year campaign to take my husband purely to break me. By afternoon, Vanessa's partnership with Langston dissolved. Clients fled. Assets were frozen. Her empire cracked in real time. That evening, she called. You destroyed me, she rasped. I showed people who you are, I said. You planned everything, lunch, the inheritance story, you're calm. How long have you known? Since the day I walked into Millbrook. Grandmother, she whispered. She spent 3 decades documenting every lie and every crime, I said. She needed the right person to pull the trigger. You did not only destroy me, Vanessa said, voice turning dangerous in its smallness. You destroyed Langston. He will lose everything by association. He made his choices, I said, though doubt pricked me. He had been weak and vain, but not the architect. Is this who you want to be? Someone who destroys people. Is this who you want to be? I asked back. Someone who calls herself a victim when accountability arrives? I wanted success and I did what it took, she said. But you? I learned that kindness is not weakness, I said. And that forgiveness does not mean impunity. What happens now? She asked at last. Now you face consequences. You will likely go to prison. You will lose what you built on harm. And you will know it all could have been avoided. You sound just like me. No, I said. I sound like someone who learned from you. There is a difference. She hung up. 6 months later, I watched the sun set through windows that no longer seemed cracked with desperation. I had repaired the roof and plumbing, painted warm walls, planted a garden. The house responded to being lived in. Vanessa was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison for tax evasion, money laundering, and conspiracy. Langston avoided charges, but his marketing career ended. He moved to another state to work as a sales manager for a small company that had never heard of Vanessa Montgomery. He called once, 3 months after Vanessa's sentencing. I understand now, he said. What she did to you. what she did to me. I am glad, I said. I do not blame you for what happened to her, he added. But I blame you for what happened to me. You could have found a way to spare me. You chose to tie yourself to a criminal, I said. I did not choose that for you. You knew the fallout and you let it happen. Yes, I said. Because actions have consequences. Because you needed to learn that the person you left was a real person, not an obstacle. Because you needed to feel what it is like when someone you trust wrecks your life for her benefit. He exhaled. Now I have. Now you have, I said. Do you feel better? I feel complete. He hung up. 2 years after I first turned the key in Millbrook, I sat at my grandmother's desk working on what had become my new career. With 30 years of files and a living network of contacts, I had built a practice as a private investigator focused on white-collar deception. I helped people who had been targeted by manipulators like Vanessa, people dismissed, underpaid, cornered. The basement office had become a true command center. The library upstairs was now a meeting room. Guest bedrooms became safe harbor for clients in crisis. The house had become exactly what my grandmother intended, a sanctuary where people could retreat, plan, and become. The most important transformation was mine. I learned that kindness does not require surrender, that forgiveness does not require proximity, that there is a difference between being good and being easy to hurt. Vanessa wrote me once from prison, a long letter about choices and apologies, asking whether, once she was released, we could rebuild. I read it 3 times and filed it under closed cases. Some bridges are not built again. One late afternoon, my eyes lifted to my grandmother's portrait. The expression I once thought enigmatic was now clear. She looked satisfied, like someone who had planted seeds and trusted the harvest would come even if she would not be here to see it. Outside, fields that had once seemed abandoned glowed with possibility. Inside, my phone buzzed with a text from a woman whose business partner had been stealing for years. Another person who needed a plan. I told her to come next week. There was something deeply satisfying about using skills I had learned against my will, investigation, strategy, patience, to help people who reminded me of the person I used to be. I closed my laptop and walked upstairs. The kitchen no longer felt like exile. The living room was for reading, not numbing. The bedroom was for sleeping, not for worrying whether the person beside me was plotting my undoing. I thought of the woman in the lawyer's office who believed her future had been reduced to an old house and a broken marriage. That woman did not know that loss would reveal her spine. She did not know that being abandoned would teach her to keep herself. I learned you sometimes have to lose everything to see what you can build. I learned people who underestimate you often hand you your greatest opportunity. Most of all, I learned revenge is not annihilating an enemy. It is becoming someone an enemy cannot destroy. I ate dinner alone in my grandmother's house, my house, and raised a glass. To Rose Montgomery, who left me more than money, a mirror and a map. To Vanessa, who showed me exactly what not to become and pushed me to discover what I could be. And to myself for finally knowing the difference between defeat and transformation. The first stars appeared over land that belonged to me. The house settled into a quiet that felt earned. Tomorrow would bring new clients, new truths to pull into the light, and the cool satisfaction of justice served cold. Tonight, for the first time in years, I fell asleep not bracing for what tomorrow might take, but ready to see what I would make of it. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.